Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, everyone. We are going to discuss chapter number 13 of the BD Churasia, which is contents of the orbit. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome to the ordinary days where we are going to discuss the contents of orbit. First of all, you should know what is orbit. So, it is a bony cavity in the skull that lodges the eyeball. What is its shape? It is a pyramidal type of cavity. It is something like a pyramid. And location, it is on the sides of the nose. So for example, if this is your nose, on the sides of your nose you have the orbital cavities located. So in this diagram of the skull, you can see this cavity, this is the orbit, and it is located on the sides of the nose. So this is the nose, and so on the side of the nose you can see this orbital cavity. Now we will discuss about the axis of the orbital cavity. So now you can see this line, this one, it is the orbital axis, and it is going to pass backwards and a little bit medially. So this orbital axis is passing backwards and medially. Also, I have shown over here that this orbital axis is passing backwards and medially. So this is the nose, so this is going backwards and towards the nasal side. Now the medial walls, if we talk about the medial walls of these cavities, the bony orbits, the medial walls, the two walls, they are parallel to each other, and the distance between them is 2.5 centimeters. But when we talk about the lateral walls, that is this wall and this wall, and now we plot these two walls like this, we can find out an angle of 90 degrees between them. So lateral walls are perpendicular to each other or have an angle of 90 degrees with each other. Now it has a lot of contents. First of all, it has eyeball, then it has the fascia, extraocular muscles, then the vessels, nerves, glands, and the orbital fat. Now in the next chapter, now we will talk about the visual axis. The visual axis, it passes at the midpoint of the anterior and posterior parts of the eyeball. So the visual axis, or the axis of the eyeball, it passes from the midpoint of the anterior and posterior poles of the eyeball, and with respect to the orbital axis it has an angle of 20 to 25 degrees. Let us have a look. So for example, this is your eyeball. Let me zoom it a little bit. So this is your eyeball, and it has this anterior portion, the region of lens, etc., and this is the posterior portion. So a line which passes through the midpoints of the anterior and posterior portions of your eyeballs, it is known as the visual axis, and when we relate it with the orbital axis, we find out an angle between them. So the angle between them is 20 to 25 degrees. With that, we are done with all the axis related to the orbital cavity. In the next video, we are going to discuss about the fascia as well as the extraocular muscles of the orbit.